For nearly a century, Disney animation was not an industry. It was a religion. Children didn't just watch Disney films, they were shaped by them. But the cathedral is showing cracks that no amount of nostalgia can plaster over. In the last 5 years, Disney animation has lurched from triumph to quiet disaster. Films that cost hundreds of millions vanished from theaters without a whisper. The question is no longer whether Disney is struggling, it is whether Disney knows why. When Disney Plus launched in 2019, the studio made a bet that would alter animation forever. Releasing animated films directly to the platform felt like a business decision dressed as generosity. Raya and the Last Dragon, Soul, Luca, each sent to a screen rather than a stage. What was lost was not just box office revenue, it was cultural event status. A Disney film on a streaming queue is just another thumbnail among thousands. The magic of cinema demands darkness, silence, and a crowd that agrees to believe together. Disney quietly taught a generation that its stories were worth staying home for. Pixar was acquired in 2006 as a solution, and became instead a symptom. For over a decade, Pixar held the emotional core that Disney's own studio had lost. Then came the sequels: Cars 2, Monsters University, Finding Dory, Lightyear. Each one a diminishing return on a promise made by better films. Even Pixar's originals, Elemental, Turning Red, arrived with muted fanfare. The studio that once made adults sob in the first 10 minutes now struggles to make them stay. Originality is not a gift Pixar lost. It is a risk Disney stopped taking. Hollywood learned long ago that sequels are safer than dreams. Disney leaned into that lesson until it became a crutch, then a cage. Frozen 2, Toy Story 4, The Little Mermaid remake, all calculated resurrections. The live-action remake machine promised familiarity, but delivered diminishment. When a studio remakes its own classics, it is not honoring the past. It is afraid of the future. Audiences noticed, even if they couldn't name what was missing. A franchise is not a legacy. It is a lease on someone else's imagination. Disney now holds more franchises than any studio in history, and fewer genuine surprises. While Disney looked inward, the animation world outside its walls exploded. Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse didn't just win an Oscar. It rewrote the rulebook. DreamWorks, Sony, and independent studios began defining what bold animation looked like. Netflix poured billions into animated originals that took risks Disney's committees wouldn't approve. Japanese animation, anime, captured an entire generation that Disney had failed to reach. The children who grew up on The Lion King now watch Studio Ghibli on their lunch breaks. Disney no longer sets the standard. It chases a standard set by its former students. Behind every frame of animation is an artist who chose this craft over a safer life. Disney has laid off thousands of animators in the last decade, reshaping itself around efficiency. The rise of AI-generated visuals now threatens the remaining human touch in production. An algorithm can approximate beauty, but it has never and will never feel grief. The films that endure are the ones where a human being bled a little onto the storyboard. Disney's greatest risk is not a bad quarter. It is forgetting what made the work sacred. You cannot automate wonder. Inside Out 2 became the highest-grossing animated film of 2024, and the industry exhaled. It proved that emotional storytelling still moves people when given the chance to try. New creative leadership at Disney Animation has promised a return to theatrical ambition. Moana 2 and Zootopia Plus signal a studio still willing to revisit what worked, carefully. But resurrection requires more than sequels. It requires the courage to start from nothing. The studios that survive disruption are the ones that remember their original question. Disney's original question was simple. What does it feel like to be alive and amazed? Disney's future in animation will not be determined by market forecasts or franchise pipelines. It will be determined by whether one person in a room stands up and says, "This isn't good enough." The greatest animation studios in history were built by obsessives who couldn't stop asking why. Disney has all the money, all the talent, and all the history it needs to lead again. What it lacks, what it must choose to rebuild, is the willingness to be wrong and try anyway. The children waiting for the next great Disney film don't care about the board of directors. They only know that somewhere, someone promised them a story worth believing in. The question is whether Disney still believes it can be the one to tell it.